bouncing on. There we go. Okay, this is my third attempt at trying to make videos for you guys, and hopefully this one will go better so I won't start getting mad. But this one is switching between fractions, decimals, and percents, and again, the speed's going to be very quick because you should have already learned how to do this, but rewatch anything you need again so that you're all set. These are all skills that you need to know for the whole rest of the year. So when you're all done, go ahead and check that box. You should be able to convert between fractions, decimals, and percents. So moving to the page in the booklet, we're going to go from fractions to decimals first. And to do that, you're going to divide by long division. You may use your calculator if you'd like, but you're going to need long division anyway, so I'm going to show you how to do that by hand. To go from a decimal to a percent, you're going to multiply by 100%. So you multiply by 100%. In school, middle school, you probably were just told to move the decimal place twice. Well, this is essentially the same thing, but it's the proper terminology. So then you go back. So you move from percent to a decimal, and if you multiply, so now to go the other way, you're going to divide. Divide by 100%, or again, move the decimal by 2 decimal places. Then to go from a decimal to a fraction, you're going to put the number of the decimal over whatever the denominator is. So I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. So we have an example. We're going to start with 9/20, and we're going to convert it to a decimal, and then we're going to convert it to a percent. So we need to do some long division. We're going to divide 9 by 20. And you're probably saying, how do I do that? Because I cannot, 20 is bigger than 9. Well, that's where we need a decimal. So we're going to put a decimal point 0 in, and now we know that we're putting the decimal in above also. Make this a little bigger. So we're going to see how many times does 20 go into 90. That's essentially what we're doing. So 20 goes into 90 4 times. So essentially we're writing 0.4 times 20, but really we're going to think of that as 4 times 20, which is 80. If we actually had the decimals in, it would be 8.0. So we subtract now. 9 minus 8 is 1. We have 1.0. So now how many times does 20 go into 10? Well, it doesn't. So we have to add another 0 in our long division. And so now we're looking at how many times does 20 go into 100. Well, that goes in 5 times. So 5 times 20 is 100, or really with the decimal places it's 1. And then we subtract, we get 0 left over, so no remainder, and we're good to go. So our decimal is 0.45. To convert that to a percent, we multiply times 100%. So what that means is now we have 45%. Okay, so that was going from a fraction to a percent. You have to take that decimal step in between. You can't automatically just skip it. So now we're going to do a new example starting with 15%. So to go from a percent to a decimal, remember if you saw the notes, you divide by 100% this time. And you can see that the percents cancel. So then what we get is 0.15. Then to convert from a decimal to a fraction, we take these 2 decimal places. If we were to read this, it would say 15 hundredths. So we do 15 over 100. If there's 2 decimal places, it's over 100. And then we have to simplify. So 15 and 100 are both divided by 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 100 divided by 5 is 20. Our simplified final answer is 3/20. I'm going to do another decimal to fraction for you. If we have 0.7, well, that's 7/10, and we want to convert that to a fraction, so we'll have 7/10, right? That's 1 decimal. That turns into 7 over 10. So that's the main idea, and we'll do a couple more examples on the next page. So we want to convert the following fractions to percents, so we have to convert it to a decimal first. So we're going to divide, I'll make it bigger so I can do my long division. We're going to divide 3 by 8. Well, how many times does 8 go into 3? Well, it doesn't. So that's where we need our decimal. How many times does 8 go into 30? Well, it only goes in 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24, so we have 2.4. And we subtract. And finally, we get 0.6. Now, how many times does 8 go into 0.6? Well, it doesn't, so we got to add the 0 on the end. And now, how many times does 8 go into 60? That's the question. Well, we can think that it goes in 7 times, because 7 times 8 is 56. And now we subtract. We're left with 0.04. We'll add a 0 to the end of that. How many times does 8 go into 40? Well, that goes in 5 times. So we have 0.040. We subtract. We have no remainder again. We may have to do that for a long time until we get our answer. But here you go. Here is our decimal, but it needs percents. So all we got to do is multiply that by 100%. So our final answer is 37.5%. A lot of work, but we did it. Next, 2/7, same thing, I'm dividing. So I'm going to divide 2 by 7. Well, it doesn't go into 2, so we need our decimal place. How many times does 7 go into 20? It goes in 2 times. So there we have 14. You can see it's the same as regular long division, except we have a decimal in there. We subtract, we get, 1. Oh, not 1. We get 0.6. 0.6. And we need to add a 0. How many times does 7 go into 60? Well, we know that 8 times 7 is 56. So there's my 56. I subtract, and now I get 0.04. And we can keep doing this. How many times does 7 go into 40? Well, that goes in 5 times. 7 times 5 is 35. We subtract, we get 0.5, and we know we're not going to be done. It's going to go on for a long time, so I'm going to round it off right here, and we're going to stop. We can use our calculators to approximate it, but this decimal just keeps on going and going and going. So we're rounding it off, and now to get it to a percent, we multiply by 100%. We finally get our final answer of 28.5%. So there's fractions to percents. There's 3 examples now. Hopefully that should be enough. Now we have to go backwards. We're going to convert the following percentages to fractions. So we do it but do a decimal first. We're going to divide by 100%. And you can see that the percents cancel. And we get 0.16. There's our decimal. We know we have 2 decimal places, 1, 2, so we know that that's going to go over 100. We have 16 hundredths. So down here I'm going to write it 16 over 100. That's our fraction. It works, but we have to simplify that. So what can we divide out of 16 and 100? Well, you can divide both of those by 2. We can try that first and then see what happens. Divide by 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 100 divided by 2 is 50. Can we divide that by anything else? We can divide it by 2 again. So divided by 2, divided by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 50 divided by 2 is 25. Can we divide that by anything else and simplify it more? Well, no, we can't. So we're done. 4 over 25. One more. We have 210%. Now it's bigger than 100%, it still works the same way. So we'll divide by 100%. That gives us 2.10. We don't even need that 0 if we don't want to. And then we're going to put it, the fraction part, the decimal part, the 0.10, or what really is 2.1. We don't need the extra 10. Makes it a little easier. We're going to put the 1 over. So we have 1 over 10, and we got 2 more. So I don't really like mixed numbers. You guys use mixed numbers sometimes, but in Algebra 1, those go away. We'd much rather have improper fractions. So I'm going to rewrite 2 as 20 tenths. What this really is addition. And we've got 1 more tenth. So we have 21 tenths. The next lesson on fractions is going to help us a little more with that adding and fractions. So don't worry about this step, but I want you to make sure you can at least get from that 0.1 to 1/10. Okay? That is it for this lesson, and we're done.